So next, I would like to introduce Amartuvshin Dorj from the Mises Institute Mongolia Network.
Thank you, Thera, and thank you, Young-hee, and it was very inspirational speaking. And good morning, everyone, and my name is Amartuvshin Dorj. By the way, I have a least complicated name in my country. And yeah, my cousin's name is Bayir Sachem Badam Srejit. Yeah, Mongolian name is very complicated. Yeah. Okay. First, I will start my presentation with brief information about Mongolia. Mongolia locates between Russia and China, two of the strongest and biggest states in the world. Mongolian land is huge. It equals 4 Germany and 37 Netherlands, but population is only 3 million. Okay, next I want to share with you 2 global indexes that give you general picture of Mongolian current political and economic situation. Okay, first, Freedom in the World Index 2017 by Freedom House. Mongolia scored 85 score. It states Mongolia free country in terms of political and civil rights. Also, here you can see okay, here you can see our neighbor's color. Second, but in terms of economic freedom, we are far behind from many countries. We are ranked in 129th and categorized mostly unfree. It shows that Mongolian economy has highly government intervention. From those indexes, we can see Mongolia is a free terms of political rights, but mostly unfree in economic freedom. Okay. Yeah, some of you know that Mongolia is a post-socialist country. In 1990, socialism collapsed by democratic revolution, and people choose democratic society and free market economy. In the first place, people were joyful to have fundamental rights such as a right to vote and right to have property, etc. However, there was not enough knowledge and skills to live democratic and free market economy. And unfortunately, it is still in the case. Here I want to share my share my personal story. This is photo of me and my brother. This is me. Yeah. When I was my first grade, teacher said us, in the future, everybody owns their own car. We can travel everywhere. Back then, we didn't believe her. Because that time, people don't own cars and only few people, the government has it. So we couldn't imagine. But today, as a benefit of free market, Mongolia, almost everyone has a car and smartphone. In UB, traffic jam is maybe first problem in UB. Yeah. So, okay, next slide, please. Yeah. Here is the graphic showing how Mongolian economy growing since then. We can see fast growth. For example, in 2011, our economic growth was 17%. It shows that how free market economy changed Mongolia. Although we can see from graphic, the economy is decreasing in last few years. It is affected from unstable policy and government expansion and limit to free market. Okay, next. Yeah, this is our Mises-Mongolia's staffs, and for young people who have been free market and individual freedom activists since 2008, established in Mises-Mongolia NGO 2016. We saw many problems in our economy. One of them, people don't have knowledge to free market and free society. because that there are many side effects followed, such as first, people blame free market for every problem. And second, people expect state and government change their lives like magician. In the results, politicians give populist promises that increase welfare and government intervention. After all, it brings frequent economic crises and shrinkage of economic growth and big government that enables corruption. And we suggest our solution. We aim to raising awareness, free market and free society from very basic level. For instance, what is price? What is free trade? What is inflation? How to free market works and why government should be limited. Okay. We believe that knowledge is the power to change. Our vision is a society based freedom and free market values. Okay, we run different types of activities. I will share some highlights. And in spring 2017, we organized the first Ayn Rand conference in Mongolia with the honorable guests such as Yaron Brook, director of Ayn Rand Institute, and Karl Barne, board of Cato Institute in conference, and 200 people participate this conference. And we organize a series of lecture and discussions. For example, in 2016 summer, we organized a lecture with the Professor Ken and Lee. And last summer, we also organized a lecture with Professor Christopher Lingle. Thank you, Chris and Lee. They are coming today. Yeah, and overall lecture series, we involved around 1,100 people. Since 2008, I am personally co-organized annual Liberty Summer School. And since 2016, Mises-Mongolia co-organized Free Market Academy every summer. Both of them are camp-based and highly interactive workshops. Overall, 300 young people graduate our summer programs. Recently, we started Liberty Pub monthly event. It brings more active and warm discussion on political and economic topics in welcoming in environments such as a public pub or lounge with the wine and beer. Of course, online is an important platform modern days, especially Facebook is the big deal in Mongolia. So we are actively distribute our values in Facebook and other social networks. Yeah. One of the highlights of activity is book translating and publishing. In last 2 years, we published 4 books, which some of them include bestseller books in Mongolia. Also, we organize book discussions. Yeah, besides many successes, we face a challenge that we are still working on. First, we need to strengthen our knowledge and up-to-date information. We learn by ourselves, but want to systemize and deepen our knowledge. Second is the lack of organization development. For now, it's driven by our hearts only, but we need more constructive and professional development. Third is the lack of human resource. For now, 4 of us work voluntarily, but when we want to expand our activities, increase our effectiveness, we need to list 2 full-time staffs. Last one is lack of funding and financial support. Current way, which is we found by ourselves, it doesn't work long run. We urgently need solution for those challenges. And thank you, and freedom forever.
That might be the best closing line that I've heard for a while in a speech. Next up, I would like to introduce another very old and dear friend, Barun Mitra from India, from the Liberty Institute.
Good morning, and good to see old friends and some new ones. I hope the clicker would work for me. It does it? Did it? Or they'll help me out because I'm technologically challenged. And today it's an even bigger challenge because I don't think I've spoken for 5 minutes. Those of you who know me, an hour is not enough. Let me try. All of you are interested in policy, right? Most of you are working to try to change policies in your own country, right? Right? How many of you are interested in politics? And how many of you are actually trying to do something about politics? Or at least try to understand it? In China, great Majunti, you have a great future, yeah. But the challenge, I think, is particularly now, and we already heard it in the morning, SIP's chairperson Saida mentioned it already. So the biggest challenge, I believe, that politics faces across the world, not in any particular country, across the world, is populism. But generally, a lot of us began by looking at populism as a kind of a demeaning, threatening term without really understanding what it means. Because what's become clear in the last 5 years, particularly in the last 5 years, is that populism is an ideology, if you can call it that transcends all other ideologies. One can be a left-wing populist and a right-wing populist, right? Populism doesn't distinguish between the color of politics. And I think the liberals today face an existential challenge, I believe. Because even 50 years ago, 40 years ago, they were so-called the People's Democratic Republics. What it meant was they didn't really be liberal democracies, but even they wanted to portray themselves as liberal and democratic. Today, more than half the world don't even want to be a liberal and democratic. Liberalism, in my view, has never faced an existential crisis in the last 200 years as severe as this one, and it's not just about liberalism as we know as a particular ideology, because the threat's coming from elsewhere. And that's where I'm going to talk about the reason why I really believe populism has transcended ideology is because it's united by the idea of unbridled expansion of the state. Doesn't matter which way you look at it, the government has made a huge comeback. As I saw when I was a youngster, the empire has struck back. And the liberals have little opportunities. So let me show you the video that inspired me, the man who I really believe was the last of the classical liberals, a politician, and the first of the libertarians, even when the term didn't exist, was not being used at that time. How does it run?
Colonial reception to the Satyagrahis.
Shut down the audio, please, because then I can't talk. We don't need the audio. We don't need the audio. Thank you. Because that will be a distraction. We all know of the Long March. How many of you knew about this man and his march? You may have known about this man, Gandhi from India, but this, I believe, was the largest mass mobilization ever till that point in 1930. He's a man who mobilized millions and sustained the campaign for nearly a year, 9 months.
Gandhi and his followers entered the village, Dharamshala.
We know of Long March. This is nothing compared to what he did. At a time when social media, and in fact normal media didn't exist, he mobilized, and how did he do it? And I think the reason I got interested in politics is because I don't look at him as the Mahatma, the great soul. I look at him as the master political strategist.
In the evening,
a man who did something that we can't even imagine. Most of us in this room, I know many of my friends, think liberalism can't be popular.
Gandhi explained his mission.
I think if we really believe that, we have no hope.
Had burnt their boats the moment
Because I've heard that saying, and even I used to believe that till a few years ago, that liberalism can't be popular. This man showed how liberalism actually can mobilize millions. And the reason he did it, and that's where the libertarian or the liberal ideology or the political thinking comes in. The reason he did it, the way he did it, was to attack and assault the state. Because if you look at the state,
Daily,
what's the state?
Gandhi
A government.
walked about 10 miles.
The underlying element
On
of
the way,
all government
he
action
was
is
seen
violence.
beseeching the people to abjure
He
alcohol,
led his
abandon
millions to
child
defy
marriage,
the
and
government.
when the signal came, to
Not
break
by
the
violence,
law.
but by
As the
non-violence.
procession marched through
And,
village
this was not just a high-flown ideology.
fortunes of this
It was a
marching
very
column,
practical
from
tool
day to
because
day,
you
the
cannot
temperature of the country went
respond to violence with violence. Then you equalize, normalize violence. And the liberals have lost the ground, and not just liberals, all political ideologies have lost the ground in the last 50 years because virtually every political ideology adopted the state. Most of us, including myself,
focused on Gandhi
used to think
and on
we will influence
a small village
policymakers
on the seashore in
who are
Goa,
close to the state.
which was preparing to receive streams
We
of
cannot influence policymakers who are close to the state because the state would reflect that violence in one form or the other. His defiance was not just against the state.
41-mile-long
His millions marched with him to defy the salt tax by the British was not just a protest against the British. It was the movement
received
to
Gandhi
energize the millions to identify themselves as political beings, as citizens, as moral agents.
after relaxing for a few hours.
It's
he
a
set up
transformation of a kind we
the
can't
war
even
against
imagine
the salt
today.
tax that was to begin.
That a country as diverse as India, 400 million, 300 million people at that point, with all the religions and the castes and the languages and everything put together, he tied them into one thread on the notion of justice and on the idea
He issued a warning.
that state
Those who
represents
fear the
violence
government will leave.
and therefore the
Only
state has to
those
be
who are
rolled back.
prepared for jail
Liberals
time
have
and
forgotten
for
that.
receiving bullets
What did this
should
tell me?
accompany me tomorrow morning.
Yeah?
Funeral reception.
This is what, since I was running out of time, this is what the means and the ends we all know about. The idea is the state provides equality or the state provides equity. I don't think we need either the state to do that. The private partners could do that, and if we have to really believe that private or the individuals can come to their own arrangement to get to the freedom, and to do that, we've got to see the okay, this is my, you can think of this later. I don't like the management jargon, but I thought I'll put it in because I really think the liberalism faces a challenge and we can deal with it. These are, the reason I want you to remember Gandhi was because it's so contemporary. In most of our countries, in fact, in all our countries and in India, these are pictures from the last 5-6 years. Yeah? This is the million mutinies across the country. All of them in some form or the other is demanding justice. And one of us here in this room would also be in one of the slides, because in the last 5 years particularly, the reason I've moved out of politics or of policy and more I'm interested in politics is because of this. And there's this lady here, she's in this room. Many of you may want to meet Trupti and Amrish, because that's the first time that I felt I do not really need to be or want to be in rooms like this. We are not going to change the world at all. There's not one instance I can think in the world where ideas, education, awareness has changed the world. None. What change has come? Either the leaders wielded force, or the leaders had the moral capacity, like Gandhi demonstrated, to move the millions. What are we aspiring for? We want to go to the state and make them aware of our enlightened views, or we want the state to withdraw and get the millions on our side. If we really don't believe in the millions, we would not succeed. This is my last one. You know the picture? Tom Sawyer in a famous story, Adventures of Tom Sawyer, painting the wall. This is what is political entrepreneurship in its best form. You inspire people to do what you think is right. Can we do that? Can we do that? Can we do that? Yes. Thank you.
Wow, there's some passion, I think. It was a great way to get people awake again this morning. I'm happy to introduce the final speaker of the Cornerstone Talks. I need my cheat sheet. Nila Tanzil from Taman Bacaan Pelangi. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's good to be here. My name is Nila Tanzil. I'm the founder of an NGO called Taman Bacaan Pelangi, or Rainbow Reading Gardens, and I come from Indonesia. Let me tell you a story. 10 years ago, I was on a small island called Papagaran Island. It's one of the inhabited islands in the area of Komodo National Park. And I was walking in the dock, going back to my boat, and I was surrounded by kids. Two girls walking next to me. Their names are Leah and Ina. They're in the 5th and 4th grades in school. And I overheard their conversation. Leah asked Ina, "Hey, which country do we live in?" And Ina answered with a straight face, "Malaysia." I was like, "Hey, we live in Indonesia, not Malaysia." And she said, look at me, "Indonesia, kakak?" "Yeah, Indonesia." Can you believe that? Two girls, 10 years old and 11 years old, they had no idea where they lived. Yet, they live in one of the new 7 wonders of nature area. So sad, right? And I believe this wouldn't happen if they love reading. So that's why I set up Rainbow Reading Gardens with focuses on establishing children's libraries in remote villages in eastern Indonesia. So kids like Leah and Ina, who live in fishing villages, after school they normally just play on the beach. But kids like them who live in the mountains area of Flores, after school they collect woods in the forest because their moms still cook with wood fire. They have no access to books at all. So why books are important, and why literacy is very important, and why I focus our efforts in literacy. So when it comes to illiteracy, eastern part of Indonesia has the highest illiteracy rate in the country. In Papua, for example, 1 in 3 people cannot read. When it comes to reading skills, kids in Java and Bali, they can read 59 words per minute, which is fluent. The benchmark is 50 words per minute. But kids in Nusa Tenggara, in eastern Indonesia, they could only read half of it, 29 words per minute, far below the standard. When it comes to reading comprehension, kids in Java and Bali, they can understand 78% of what they read. But kids in eastern Indonesia, they could only understand 46% of what they read. So no wonder they're failing in the national exam, because they simply couldn't understand the context of the exam itself. So the objective of Rainbow Reading Gardens is to nurture and instill the love of reading in the kids who live in remote areas and providing them access with high quality of children's storybooks. And why Eastern Indonesia? Indonesia itself, let me give you a bit of context. We have over 300 ethnic groups and we have over 700 languages. And eastern part of Indonesia has the least limited infrastructure. For example, from Jakarta to Banda Neira, for example, it takes 5 hours by plane, and then another 9 hours by boat. So it's 14 hours. By that time, you could be in Amsterdam, right? But no, you're still in Indonesia. So this is the areas where our libraries are located. all in eastern part of Indonesia. So in the first 3 years of the journey with Taman Bacaan Pelangi, I learned so much. In the beginning, the libraries are located in local people's houses. And it has so many challenges. Why? Because we only depended on 1 or 2 volunteers, normally the people who live in that house. When it comes to volunteers, sometimes they do activities, reading activities, sometimes they don't. And when they don't, that's where the numbers of the kids going to the library decrease a lot. So learning from mistakes, right? We evolved. Next. Now, all the libraries are located in primary schools, in local schools. So the concept is child-friendly libraries. As you can see, it's so colorful, full of print-rich materials, murals, and then we have bookshelves that are with the books facing up front. So it encourages kids to read when they see the book covers. Yeah. These are the types of libraries that we establish. Every library has a collection of at least 1,000 to 3,000 books. And all the books are leveled based on the kids' reading skills. The impact. Now, we are already 8 years. We have established 81 child-friendly libraries across 15 islands in eastern Indonesia. Thank you. So from Lombok, Sumbawa, Flores, Sulawesi, Timor, Alor, Banda Islands, South Halmahera, and Papua. We even have a library in Puncak Jaya Wijaya up in the mountain. Not yet? Back, please. Yeah. We have benefited over 20,000 children who had no access to books before. And then we provided over 140,000 children's storybooks. And we have trained over 628 teachers in those local villages. Our programs, not only we establish child-friendly libraries, but we conduct capacity building workshops for all the teachers and school principals on library management system and also on reading activities that they can do in the libraries. And not only that, we also advocate to the head of education in each district for a library period to be embedded into the school curriculum. So every class has to go to a library for 1 hour per week, and it's embedded into the school curriculum, so it's more sustainable. And during that 1 hour, it's the teacher who have trained by us who conduct the reading activities. Next. And we also have basic literacy course for free for those who are still illiterate. Next. So I wrote my journey in my book called Lembar-Lembar Pelangi. The idea is to inspire young people, young Indonesians, to start contributing to our country. Next. And I also set up a social enterprise in travel, basically providing customized trips to Flores Island, but you have volunteering bits in the libraries that we set up, and the profit goes to support the NGO. These are some Harvard professors, high prominent professors, and they volunteered at our library. One of the students asked, "Hey, what is a professor?" They've never seen a professor before. So this type of activities inspired them. Next. Education is one of the key factors if a country wants to succeed. And book is a big part of that. I believe I wouldn't be standing here today if my childhood wasn't surrounded by books. And I believe every child has the right to have access to books. Children like Ina and Leah, they have the rights to have access to books, even though they live in very remote area. Books can inspire them to dream big, and I cannot do it alone. Together, we can make a difference. Let's collaborate. Thank you.
Well, those were pretty amazing stories, and I'm happy to report that we ended right on time, so if the conference starts running late, it's not my fault. I'd like to welcome everyone, the speakers, up to the stage for a photo, and I believe that we're going into a break now, so if you have questions after the photo session, please find the speakers and find out more about these amazing things that they're doing across Asia. Thank you.